An empire collapsed, a family executed, and a mystery that has captivated the world for over a century. What Romanovs, Russia's last imperial family? How did they go from ruling one of the world's largest empires to meeting such a grisly and mysterious end? Was it fate, politics, or a curse that sealed their doom? Today, we'll unravel the tragic tale of Nicholas II, Alexandra, and their children, a family whose story is etched in history and steeped in unanswered questions. A family at the helm of an empire. Our story begins in 1894, a pivotal year for the Romanov dynasty. Nicholas Alexandrovich Romanov, better known as Nicholas II, ascended the Russian throne following the sudden death of his father, Alexander III. At just 26 years old, Nicholas inherited a vast empire, stretching from Europe to Asia. But Nicholas was unprepared for the weight of the crown. By nature, he was reserved and deeply religious, preferring family life over politics. His wife, Alexandra Fyodorovna, was equally devout, and their love story was both a strength and a weakness. Together, they had 5 children: Olga, the eldest and most introspective; Tatiana, the graceful and organized one; Maria, known for her kind heart; Anastasia, the mischievous youngest daughter whose name would later become legend; Alexei, the long-awaited heir, born with a dark secret. He suffered from hemophilia, a condition that would shape the family's fate. Russia on the brink. While the Romanovs lived a life of splendor, their empire was crumbling. The early 20th century brought political unrest, economic hardship, and calls for reform. Workers demanded better conditions, peasants cried for land, and revolutionaries whispered of overthrowing the monarchy. The Russo-Japanese War, 1904 to 1905, was a devastating blow to Russia's pride. Defeat at the hands of Japan exposed the empire's weaknesses and fueled discontent. The unrest culminated in 1905's Bloody Sunday, when unarmed protesters marching to the Winter Palace were fired upon by imperial guards. The massacres shattered public trust in Nicholas II. From that moment on, his nickname became Nicholas the Bloody. The curse of Alexei and Rasputin's influence. In 1904, when Alexei was born, it seemed like a blessing, but the joy was short-lived. The young heir's hemophilia, a genetic disorder that prevents blood from clotting, became the family's darkest secret. Enter Grigory Rasputin, a mystic and self-proclaimed holy man. Rasputin claimed to have healing powers and gained Alexandra's trust by seemingly easing Alexei's suffering. But his influence over the royal family came at a cost. Scandals, Rasputin's debauched lifestyle, and proximity to the Romanovs tarnished their reputation. Political meddling. Critics accused him of interfering in state affairs, further alienating the public. Rasputin became a symbol of the monarchy's corruption, and his presence deepened the Romanovs' isolation from their people. World War I, the beginning of the end. By 1914, Europe was plunged into the chaos of World War I. Nicholas II, believing it was his divine duty, led Russia into the conflict. But the war only exacerbated the empire's troubles. Military defeats. Russia suffered massive losses, demoralizing both troops and civilians. Economic collapse. Food shortages and inflation created widespread suffering. Political turmoil. Nicholas's decision to command the army personally left the government in chaos, with Alexandra and Rasputin effectively in charge. As the war dragged on, public outrage grew. Nicholas was seen as out of touch, Alexandra as a German spy, and Rasputin as a malevolent puppeteer. The Romanov downfall. The breaking point came in 1917 with the February Revolution. Workers, soldiers, and peasants united in protest, demanding an end to the war and the monarchy. Nicholas was forced to abdicate on March 15, 1917, bringing 3 centuries of Romanov rule to an end. The family was placed under house arrest, first at the Alexander Palace and later in Tobolsk, Siberia. They hoped for exile in Britain or another allied country, but political complications made rescue impossible. A family in captivity. Despite their dire circumstances, the Romanovs tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy. They prayed, played games, and held on to their faith. But as the Bolsheviks gained power, their fate became increasingly uncertain. In 1918, the family was moved to the Ipatiev house in Ekaterinburg, a heavily guarded residence ominously nicknamed the House of Special Purpose. The walls of the Ipatiev house witnessed the Romanovs' final days. The children sewed jewels into their clothing, believing they might need them in exile. Nicholas kept a diary, documenting mundane details as though clinging to normalcy. But the outside world was changing rapidly, and the Bolsheviks were consolidating their grip on Russia. For the Romanovs, time was running out. The final hours. On the night of July 16 to 17, 1918, the family's captors summoned them under the pretense of evacuation. Nicholas, Alexandra, their children, and a few loyal attendants were led to a basement room. And then, the unthinkable happened. In part 2, we'll uncover the chilling events of that fateful night, the secrets that shrouded the Romanovs' execution, and the mysteries that would endure for decades. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the tragedy of the Romanov family. The year was 1918, and the Romanovs, once rulers of the vast Russian Empire, were now prisoners in a nondescript house in Ekaterinburg. Their lives had been reduced to a shadow of their former grandeur, and their fate hung precariously in the hands of the Bolsheviks. What happened in the Ipatov house on July 16 to 17, 1918? Why were the Romanovs eliminated in such secrecy, and what mysteries have persisted since that fateful night? Let's uncover the chilling truth. The lead up to the execution. By mid-1918, the political situation in Russia was volatile. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, were consolidating power, while counter-revolutionary forces, known as the White Army, advanced toward Ekaterinburg. The Romanovs were at the center of a dangerous equation. The Bolsheviks feared that if the family fell into the hands of the Whites, they could become a powerful symbol for monarchist forces. The decision was made: the Romanovs must not survive. The order came from Moscow, though the details of who authorized it remain a topic of historical debate. Some say Lenin himself approved the execution, while others believe it was a local decision. The night of the execution. On the evening of July 16, 1918, the Romanovs were told they would be relocated for their safety as the White Army approached. The family, along with their loyal attendants, were awakened in the early hours of July 17 and led to a small, cramped basement room. The room, it was dimly lit, with a few chairs and no windows. The family stood together, Alexandra and her daughters clutching small religious icons. The pretext: they were told to wait for transportation. The family, though weary, complied without resistance. What happened next remains one of the darkest moments in modern history. The execution. A firing squad of Bolshevik soldiers entered the room. The leader of the squad, Yakov Yurovsky, read a brief statement declaring that Nicholas II and his family were sentenced to death. The execution was brutal and chaotic. Nicholas was shot first. He died almost instantly, but the others did not. Panic ensued. Alexandra and the children screamed as the room filled with smoke and noise. The executioners fired repeatedly, but the daughters' clothing, reinforced with hidden jewels, acted as makeshift armor, prolonging their suffering. The aftermath. The bodies were bayoneted to ensure no one survived. The room was left in disarray, bloodstained and chaotic. Disposal of the bodies. The Bolsheviks faced a new problem: what to do with the bodies. They couldn't risk them becoming relics for monarchist sympathizers. The first burial attempt. The bodies were transported to a remote area outside the city. Initially, the Bolsheviks tried to dispose of them in a mine shaft, but the plan was abandoned. Burning and acid. To obscure their identities, the executioners burned 2 of the bodies and doused the remains in acid. Final burial site. The remaining bodies were buried in a shallow grave near a dirt road in a forest. This hasty disposal would remain hidden for decades. The Romanov mystery emerges. For years, the Soviet government suppressed information about the Romanovs' fate. Officially, only Nicholas II was acknowledged as executed, while Alexandra and the children were rumored to have been moved elsewhere. The secrecy fueled speculation and legends. Survivor rumors. Some claimed that one or more of the Romanovs had escaped, with Anastasia becoming the focal point of these theories. Imposters. Several women came forward in the 20th century, claiming to be Anastasia. The most famous was Anna Anderson, whose story captivated the world. Discovery of the remains. It wasn't until 1979 that the Romanovs' burial site was discovered by amateur investigators. However, it wasn't publicly acknowledged until after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. The Ekaterinburg grave. The remains of 9 individuals were unearthed, believed to be Nicholas, Alexandra, 3 of their daughters, and their attendants. The missing children. 2 bodies were missing, sparking more speculation. Were they Alexei and Anastasia? DNA testing. In the early 2000s, advanced DNA testing confirmed the identities of the remains, including those of Alexei and one daughter, likely Maria, found in a separate grave in 2007. The debate over responsibility. The execution of the Romanovs remains a contentious topic in Russian history. Was it necessary? Some argue that it was a pragmatic decision to prevent the monarchy's resurgence. Was it justified? Others see it as a brutal and senseless act, emblematic of the excesses of the Bolshevik regime. The Romanovs were canonized as martyrs by the Russian Orthodox Church in 2000, cementing their place in both religious and historical memory. Lingering questions. Despite decades of research, some questions remain. Who ordered the execution? Was it Lenin, or was it a local decision by the Bolsheviks in Ekaterinburg? Why the secrecy? Was it fear of backlash, or a deliberate attempt to obscure the truth? The curse of the Romanovs. Could the family's tragic end be attributed to a curse, as some legends suggest? The tragic end of the Romanov family left an indelible mark on history, but their story didn't end in the Ipatov house. Over the decades, it has become a tale shrouded in mystery, myths, and intrigue, capturing the imagination of millions. Was there a curse that doomed the Romanovs? Did Anastasia or Alexei survive? And why does their story continue to resonate so deeply? Let's delve into the enduring legacy of the Romanovs, from the myths that refuse to die to the lessons they leave behind. The myths myth of the Romanov curse. The idea of a Romanov curse has persisted for generations, often linked to the family's tragic history. 1. The origin of the curse. Some believe the curse began with Rasputin, the mystic whose influence over the family was both a blessing and a curse. After his assassination in 1916, a letter attributed to him was discovered, allegedly warning, "If I am killed, none of your family will survive for more than 2 years." True or not, this ominous prediction aligned eerily with the Romanovs' downfall. 2. A legacy of misfortune. The Romanovs' history is littered with tragedy. The untimely deaths of emperors, including Nicholas I and Alexander II. The mysterious illness of Alexei, which destabilized the family. The revolution and the ultimate execution of the family. While many dismiss the curse as superstition, it remains a powerful symbol of the family's doomed fate. The Anastasia legend. Did she survive? Of all the Romanov mysteries, none is as captivating as the question of Anastasia. For decades, rumors swirled that the youngest Romanov daughter had escaped the execution. 1. Anna Anderson. In 1920, a woman in Berlin attempted suicide and was rescued. She later claimed to be Anastasia Romanov. Her story captured global attention. Anna Anderson claimed she was rescued by a Bolshevik soldier. She identified Romanov family members and provided details that some found convincing. However, many doubted her story. DNA testing in the 1990s revealed no genetic link between Anna Anderson and the Romanovs, conclusively debunking her claim. 2. The real Anastasia. DNA analysis of the remains found in 2007 confirmed that all 4 Romanov daughters, including Anastasia, had perished alongside their family. The cultural legacy of the Romanovs. The Romanov story has been immortalized in books, films, and art, cementing their place in cultural memory. 1. Films and media. Anastasia, 1997, an animated film that romanticized the idea of Anastasia's survival. The Last Tsars, 2019, a Netflix series blending drama and documentary to tell the Romanov story. Numerous documentaries and historical novels explore their lives and deaths. 2. The Romanov House Museum. The Ipatiev house, where the Romanovs were executed, was demolished in 1977 under Soviet orders. However, a church, the Church on the Blood, now stands on the site, dedicated to their memory. Lessons from the Romanov tragedy. The fall of the Romanovs offers powerful lessons about leadership, power, and human fragility. 1. The risks of isolation. Nicholas II's inability to connect with his people and his resistance to reform made him a symbol of an outdated monarchy. The Romanovs' insular world contributed to their downfall. 2. The price of revolution. The Romanovs' fate highlights the brutality of political upheaval. The Bolsheviks' decision to eliminate the family underscores the ruthlessness of revolution. 3. The power of myth. The enduring fascination with the Romanovs reminds us how stories, whether true or embellished, can shape collective memory. Unanswered questions. Even with modern research, some questions linger. Did Lenin order the execution? Historical records remain inconclusive. Could the Romanovs have been saved? Some argue that delays in negotiations with foreign powers sealed their fate. What would Russia have looked like if the monarchy survived? The Romanovs' fall paved the way for the Soviet Union, altering the course of global history. Why do the Romanovs still fascinate us? The Romanov story has all the elements of a timeless tragedy. A royal family brought down by revolution. Mysteries and unanswered questions. Themes of love, faith, betrayal, and loss. Their tale serves as both a cautionary reminder of history's complexities and a reflection of humanity's enduring fascination with power and tragedy. The Romanov legacy. Today, the Romanovs are remembered as martyrs, their lives intertwined with the dramatic rise and fall of empires. From the grandeur of the Winter Palace to the somber grounds of the Ipatiev house, their story remains a haunting chapter in world history. What do you think? Was the fall of the Romanovs inevitable, or could their fate have been different? Let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned for more deep dives into history's most compelling mysteries.